Now, Sports Talk with Broads. Here's Hunter Brody.
I want to start this conversation off by saying this. It is a tough ask when it comes to saying, hey, Sixers, go into Toronto, please, a building you haven't won in 14 attempts prior to this game. Yeah, go into that building and beat them without Joel Embiid and Josh Richardson. Now, that doesn't mean you're not allowed to be bothered or disturbed or upset with some of the things that you saw on the basketball floor, because I know I really am annoyed with some things that occurred. But when you take a few steps back, you need to realize that talent wins you games in the NBA. And when you lose two starters, one of those you didn't know wouldn't be involved in the game, you find out 4 minutes in when he leaves with a hamstring injury. When you don't have two starters, that is a big time difference. That is a huge difference. And I know what's coming. Broach, Joel Embiid scored 0 points against this team. Who the hell cares if they're in or not? Stop it. It matters. It changes the entire basketball game. And when you are down two starters, it does damage, a lot of damage. Now, once again, you can be eaten alive by multiple things that occurred in this basketball game. I'm not taking that away from anyone because I know I am. I know I am literally burning up and boiling inside my stomach from a few things. But still, you shouldn't feel any different than you did before this game when it comes to this team. If you do, shame on you. Why would you feel anything different? Because the Sixers lost on the road in a game they had a chance to win when Brett Brown was awful, when two starters were down, when Ben Simmons had more turnovers than he did field goal attempts, and they were still involved, and they still should have won? It's crazy. It's absurd. I know. But it's the truth. So let's break this sucker down. But before we do, we need to hear a word from my sponsor, SeatGeek. Do you want to go to a game? A Sixers game, Flyers game, any game out there, or hell, even a concert? If you use the promo code BROADS at SeatGeek's checkout page, you will receive $20 off of your total purchase, which you could put towards parking. That is free parking, or beer or food. Who doesn't like free beer or food? It's a no-brainer. Use the promo code BROADS today. So, I mentioned it. I'll start with Brett Brown. I thought Brett Brown had a really bad basketball game. When he went with that fourth quarter lineup of Neto, Shake Milton, Furkan Korkmaz, Mike Scott, and Norvell Pell, I mean, you got to be kidding me. Now, they did make some shots after going down a decent amount of points, so the Raptors destroyed that lineup, and then Brett Brown called a timeout, and he elected to go back with that crew, and they made a couple shots. But there's no reason in a fourth quarter do you go to your bench like that. That killed me inside. I could not believe it. I thought I was dreaming. How in the world do you do that? When the Sixers were down, when the Sixers lost the lead, you're going to rock that lineup to try and hold you into it. Now, ultimately, by the end of that spurt with that bench lineup, it wasn't as bad as we probably assumed it would have been in terms of where the score was once the rotation switched. But you can't do that. That is an awful decision. Whether it worked out or it didn't hurt as bad as maybe you assumed it would, it's not the right move. And then let's go to the game plan heading into this one. This basketball team should never, I repeat, never shoot 46 three-pointers. Now, they shot 39% from three, so at the end of the day, it wasn't miserable because they were actually making their shots, and that's not a bad average whatsoever. But this basketball team got away from their identity. Their identity is not the Houston Rockets. The Houston Rockets pull numbers like that out of the stat sheet every single night. There's no way this 76er squad should be doing that. Matisse Thybulle, 9 3-point attempts. Tobias Harris, 10? Who else had some? Shake Milton had 6. Mike Scott had 5. Like, no way in hell should these guys be shooting that many. Furkan finished with 8. Okay, I can live with Furkan shooting 8. One of those was in garbage time when it didn't even matter. So he shot 7 throughout the regular time of the game. But I'm sorry, that can't happen. 18 points in the paint. Let's go. I mean, that's just unacceptable. Let's go. That can't happen. And I say let's go in terms of pull your head out of your ass and figure this out. You got to attack. Now, they went zone, and the Sixers struggle with the zone because in the first quarter, the Sixers scored 35 points. In the second quarter, they scored 15, and you saw the lead evaporate. They were up 14 at one point. Then in the third quarter, the Sixers figure it out a bit. They go up 10 in the third quarter, and by the end of that quarter, they're down 4. It's unbelievable how frustrating this game was. Like I stated, they had a chance to win this game with Ben Simmons being bad. I know you can see a stat line and see, 17, 10, and 8, and he got to the free throw line, which I'll give him credit for knocking down his free throws. But his 17, 10, and 8 means nothing to me when he has 7 field goal attempts, when he has 8 turnovers. So with a bad performance by Ben Simmons, with a bad game plan by Brett Brown, without 2 starters, they were in this game. How? How was that possible? They let one slip. Absolutely, they let one slip. Undermanned? Yes. But I still thought they had an opportunity. Blowing a 14-point deficit, blowing a 10-point deficit. You got to be better than that. I needed more out of Ben Simmons. Absolutely, I needed more out of Ben. So you lose 2 starters, and you go away from attack mode? He wasn't in attack mode. Those 17 points, that wasn't attack mode, Ben. 7 field goal attempts, that's not attack mode, Ben. Don't tell me he was getting to the free throw line. No, it wasn't the same. When you watch that basketball game, Ben was not in that mode. And don't tell me it was because he wasn't playing the 4 or the 5. Because when they did try a play with Furkan Korkmaz with the basketball, Ben Simmons rolling to the basket, they literally took a charge. They set their feet up, bang, took a charge, and there goes Ben. Back the other way, getting ready to defend on a possession. They sniffed it right out. I knew the game was over with 6 minutes to go in the fourth, where Ben tried to give the ball to Norvel Pell. I don't even understand why he was trying to go to Norvel Pell in that situation. It was a lazy pass, but it ended up being a turnover. Pell didn't do a great job either on that situation. And it leads to a Ibaka dunk, and Matisse Thybulle fouls for an and one, which made the score 89-82. That was with 6 minutes left to go in the fourth quarter. I knew at that point the crowd was into it. The momentum completely switched, and it was all over for the Sixers as they were never really able to get much going from there. VanVleet started knocking down shots. In terms of defense, I thought early on they allowed the Raptors to get into the paint easy, and they were able to make dunks. They finished with 52 points in the paint. So they had 52. The Sixers had 18. That's embarrassing. That's unacceptable. But early in the game, I thought they allowed the Raptors to score easy buckets. But welcome to the NBA. That happens throughout every game in the NBA where no one plays defense early on. No one plays defense in the first quarter. So teams are going to score because they're feeling out the game. But all around, you hold that squad to 107 points. It's not as if the Raptors totally destroyed the Sixers offensively. I thought the defense for the Sixers, it was okay. It wasn't bad. It definitely wasn't bad. They held Siakam to 8 of 23 shooting. Kyle Lowry did not make a three-pointer, and I can't stand Kyle Lowry. I just can't stand it. He's a hate the face to me. I cannot stand how much he throws his body around, starts freaking out. I say this every time they play the Raptors because it's on full display, and I see it, and it's annoying. He complains all the time. He's such a baby, really. He's such a baby. But he wasn't able to knock anything from downtown. Gasol goes 7 of 7, and one of those shots was on Al Horford. That thing was a beauty. It looked like Dirk in his prime. There's only so much you can do. But speaking of Al Horford, he struggled in this one. He wasn't able to get going outside of early in the game when I mentioned no one plays defense, although those were some mid-range jumpers that he knocked down. But outside of that, he struggled, and he wasn't able to get going once again. I needed more out of Ben and Tobias. I looked at them and said, listen, this is a chance for you two to take over. This is a chance for you guys to put the team on your back in a hostile environment, in a building that they haven't been able to win in so many tries. But I will say this. I feel like that record is so faulty. To not count a playoff win, why? It's harder to win in the playoffs than it is to win in a regular season. We beat them in Toronto last season during the playoff run. Why would that not count? Right? I mean, it's harder to win a game on the road in the playoffs than it is in the regular season. So I just find that laughable to me. But anyway, for those two to know, those players weren't involved. And when I say those players, I'm talking about Josh Richardson and Joel Embiid. Take over the damn game. Take over the game. I'm so disappointed in Ben. I can't stress it enough. How do you go from one to the other? And early when he was getting all those turnovers, he had 6 turnovers at the half, so only 2 in the second half. But he's trying to do too much. He's trying to be pretty, trying to make these absurd passes. Yo, what are you doing? Just make the pass. Trying to do too much. Trying to create, I don't know, great plays for SportsCenter. Well, they costed the team. He was doing a little high skip as well. They couldn't beat the zone. So I'm really disappointed in Ben. And Tobias, he did finish with 22 points. He knocked down some three-pointers. He did take 10 attempts, which is a lot for me. I need Tobias to step up as well. Be more of a go-to guy. Be more of a, hey, we need a bucket, let me get a bucket type guy. Because that's not going to be Ben. Because that's not going to be Al Horford. Norvel Pelle in the game, as I mentioned, the Sixers used up his contract. So now he has no more time left with the big squad. And I think once the trade deadline passes and things of that nature, you're going to see a bunch of different things happen when it comes to the Sixers in terms of whether there's going to be a trade involved or Norvel Pelle's contract and things of that nature. So definitely keep your eyes open for that. But that changes everything when it comes to the center position right now with Joel Embiid still out. This stretch coming up is going to be brutal. But you always got to factor in that no Joel Embiid changes everything with this basketball team. It's not an excuse, right? I love hearing that. Stop making excuses. It's not an excuse. It is a reality. When it comes to the NBA, when it comes to sports, you win based off of your talents. Joel Embiid is one of the best centers in basketball. Losing him is a problem. It changes everything. I've mentioned this. It doesn't matter when you play the Nets, when you play the Bulls, when you play these teams that stink. When you go on the road, when you play the Raptors, when you play the Lakers, when you play the Celtics, when you play the Pacers, when you play any of these other teams, it means way more. And you can't just throw that away in the trash. So I don't feel any different, or I don't feel differently than I did before this game happened. Why would I? Because they lost in Toronto without 2 starters. If you told me that before the game started, hey, no Joel Embiid tonight and no Josh Richardson. Shake Milton's going to have to play 20-plus minutes. Mike Scott's going to have to be out there. Oh my. Oh my. Why would I assume a win? Now, that doesn't take them off the hook because, as I stated, you can't play that way. You flat out can't play that way. You can't get stuck in a zone. Not stuck in a zone, but you can't get stuck not being able to execute on a zone. You can't shoot 46 threes no matter what the percentage came out to be, unless you shot 90%. This team's identity is not shooting 3-pointers. You got to find other ways to attack the zone. Find the areas. Get to the free throw line. Move, penetrate. No penetration, no going to the paint, no going to the basket hard, no posting up. You can't just rely on threes. That's what they want you to do. They want you to do that. And then you have Brett Brown after the game saying he doesn't want players to rot. And he is allowing Trey Burke right now to rot. But like I've said before, there's a bunch of Trey Burke fans out there that scream for Trey Burke, free Trey Burke and all of this. He's not that good. He's better than Neto. He's not that good. You need an upgrade in the backup point guard department. Absolutely you do. He's better. But let's not blow this out of proportion. I don't know why he goes with Neto, but he does. And I don't get it. I just don't get it. And speaking of some guys coming off the bench, Furkan, listen, I think he's playing good enough basketball to keep him on that floor. If he's shooting the ball and he's knocking down shots, he is capable of staying on the floor. And I'll even give him credit because I thought that charge at the end was a good charge. I don't know how they overturned it. For them to overturn it, that's ridiculous. You're telling me that there was enough evidence on replay to say that that wasn't a charge? Listen, the ball, he didn't know where it was. He turned around. He decided to set his feet. Maybe he was, moving to the side a little bit? Is that what they were claiming? But due to video evidence, they overturned that? I thought that was a good charge. Furkan's doing enough to stay on the floor. Early in the game, he was drilling them all nonchalantly, boom, swoosh, nothing but net consistently. And I even tweeted, I'm entertained by Furkan Korkmaz. When he drops those shots, when he lets it fly, when he starts backpedaling because he knows it's already going in, and he has more of a personality right now, too, because I guess the media's on him more. You hear him talk about the Ben. That's what he calls Ben Simmons, the Ben. And he has his accent involved. Like, there's more personality to him. I'm enjoying him playing well. I told you this. I root for the Sixers. I want him to prove me wrong. And he is playing good enough. He is proving me wrong right now. And he's drilling shots at a high percentage. 3-point shooters who are not athletically gifted in the NBA, they need to shoot at a high clip to stay on the basketball court. He's doing it. He's doing it. He's the farthest thing from my issues right now at this very moment. When I get Ben giving me this type of performance where he shies away, where he's not in attack mode, after having such a dominant performance, eats me alive. That's way more problematic than Furkan Korkmaz. And let's get to Josh Richardson real quick, because I feel like I just ran right by this, because I was so fired up and annoyed with so many different conversations about this game. This dude is a Band-Aid. He's a Band-Aid. It's always something, the wrist, the hamstring. And I know a hamstring is something where if it is pulled, it will probably consistently get pulled, and it's hard to shy away from something like that once it happens, right? It seems like it's going to be continuous because it is a hamstring and it takes some time and you're running up and down the floor, but he's a Band-Aid. He's consistently getting hurt. He's missing games here. He's doing this, there. He's missing 6 games. Wrist. Always hurt, I feel like. I'm annoyed. But I don't feel different about this team. I don't feel different. They are what they are. I knew what they were before this game. And I don't think that that's an unfair way to look at it. But I do need to criticize Brett Brown in this one. He had a bad basketball game. I love it, right? Because I've been supportive of Brett Brown over the years. And Brett has a bad performance in this one, and I'm very open about it. Oh, how dare you try and support him after this one? I told you he sucks. What's he doing here? What's he doing there? He had a bad basketball game. He's had plenty of good basketball games. But it never gets brought up when he has a good basketball game, right? It's always mentioned when it's the bad. Always. Oh, look what he's doing. Awful, awful. I didn't hear you talking about when he was doing good. And trust me, there are good games, all right? I know what you're thinking right now. Well, bro, that's because there's no good games. Stop it. Just stop it. You only criticize him. You never credit him. I get it. But this game was awful, in my opinion. It was an awful game by Brett. To go to a full bench in the fourth quarter, once you lose the lead, you're up 10 in the third quarter, you end up being down 4 by the end of it. Here comes the fourth quarter, and you're rocking your full bench. I don't even understand how that goes through his brain, right? I mean, it doesn't even go through his brain. So I am going to criticize him. I keep it 100. When it's bad, I tell you it's bad. When it's good, I tell you that it's good. This was not good. It was not good by the head coach. The game plan was absolutely flawed. No matter if they shot 39% from three, the game plan was flawed. This is not a three-point shooting team where you should be jacking up 46 three-pointers. I can't believe I'm even saying that. I can't believe it's even coming out of my mouth, but it is. So now this team has a couple days off before they host the Los Angeles Lakers. That's going to be fun. Without Joel Embiid, and if Josh Richardson doesn't play, which I would probably assume he wouldn't, and no Norvel Pelle, so now you got a different backup center spot, this is going to be concerning. I'll be honest with you. This might be concerning to me. Just in terms of not when everyone's together and playing, but in terms of this stretch. There's a possibility it gets ugly based off of the fact that there's going to be a ton of injuries, potentially. That's going to hold these players out of the lineup. Well, I guess Norvel Pelle is not really an injury, but it's not being available to play based off of the contract being up, the two-way contract. And I keep hearing a lot about Shayok. Pull Shayok up. We need guys. Shake Milton dropped a ton of points in the G League, too. I'm not telling you Shayok is a bad basketball player, but he is a project. He's not someone who's just going to come in and start dominating the NBA because he drops points in the G League. There's a ton of players that score good numbers in the G League. Shake Milton did that. And it's not as if Shake Milton is horrendous, but he's not a difference maker in the NBA. You know what I'm saying? So I think they just like where he's at right now. And there's no reason for him not to be there. I don't want to hear about him. He should be practicing. He should be up with the NBA team. No, there's a reason why he's developing the way that he is down there. Let him do work down there. Let him gain confidence down there. You'd rather him be playing games than not being a factor at all on the NBA bench during a run where he's not going to be involved. He's just not. So I actually like what he brings to the table. I like a lot about him. I think he is a pure shooter. He can score the basketball. But I don't know if he's ready to be that piece you need. You need a legit NBA piece. This team is missing a real piece off the bench. You hear the names of Bogdanovich right now. Derrick Rose is one as well. And, of course, Robert Covington. But Bogdanovich was a new name in the mix. That's the type of help you need. Bogdanovich and Derrick Rose. That's the type of help you need. Not a Mario Shayok. That's a project. And I'm intrigued by that project. But it's just not the time right now. It's not the time. So, to summarize here, I'm annoyed. I'm frustrated with the loss. I thought that there were a bunch of things I did not like in this game at all. But I'm not panicking because of it. Because if you laid down the blueprint before this game started, and you laid out the roster, I guess blueprint's not the right word, and if you knew Josh Richardson will be out 4 minutes into the game, come on. Really? I demand a win. How? How? How can you demand a win? I just think that's totally ridiculous in my opinion. But still be annoyed, please, because this team should feel it. They should feel it. They should know we are upset about it because there are plenty of things that bothered the fan base, and it should bother the fan base. They shouldn't get a free pass, but you should be understanding at the same time. That's the way I look at this. So let me know your thoughts down below. Thank you so much for watching. Hit that thumbs up button and subscribe, and I will see you next time.